you are about to hear about a new opportunity for ambitious media and to get an international audience and even to make new revenue. That's what it's about. Mediabridge, just in short, and then I will introduce my friends, and then we'll take it further through. It's a way for local journalists around the world to collaborate with international media, and that way to create impact both in the local countries and internationally. We with Mediabridge, we will enable the international media to actually go global on local budgets and give the smaller media a chance to make a revenue. So it will give access to stories throughout the world from hard to reach places where we have partners in IMS, and it will happen at a very low cost. So we hope that way that we will create the connection between international media and the local media, and if someone has actually called it Airbnb for media, and that's not entirely wrong. So we'll talk about that and tell about Mediabridge. And let me also introduce who we are. We are three organizations, Danish organizations that complement each other in the Mediabridge project. We've got the D&I funds from Google to start this out with, and are working on that, and hopefully also get other funding revenues. But for now, we are working on the Google fund we have for the project, and we are, who you can see up in the top, Jesper Hyhne Petersen from Danwatch. He's editor of the media Danwatch that does investigative journalism together with local or media in the global south and media in the global north. If maybe you can talk a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yes, I'm as Henrik said, I'm the editor-in-chief of Danwatch, and we're a Danish media. We specialize in supply chain research, and we cover topics like beaching, the global garment industry, deforestation, and we have usually we work together with media in the countries where we do the stories on the research, and then we also publish together with other media, and alone we're really small, but when we publish with, like, sometimes with The Guardian or The Spiegel or Al Jazeera, we can get a really large audience and a large impact on our stories.
And then we have IndieFrame, where Megane is from. It's a digital distribution platform, and we have been working now for the last 2 years with, we think so far, a very good result. Megane, can you tell a little bit more about IndieFrame?
Yes. So I'm a project manager at IndieFrame and product owner on the Mediabridge project, and IndieFrame is basically based on the vision of facilitating, basically giving a platform to source content that has high news and editorial relevance in areas that might be hard to reach for a lot of different reasons, and basically distribute that to give access to maybe large established media who could not get their hands on that type of material without it. So what we're working on right now in IndieFrame is a journalistic toolbox, something that is like software as a service, very practical, you know, in the workflow of media agencies. But the whole vision of IndieFrame is the reason why we have a huge interest in Mediabridge, which we see as another way to actually reach our objective, realize our vision, and have impact in the media industry.
Okay, and then I will introduce. Thank you very much, Megane. I will introduce IMS. This is informal meeting. I just want to be sure that my screen is being shared. Is it?
It's not coming up yet. You're gonna
it's
have
not
to
coming up. So
yeah, just hit the present now button at the bottom right of your screen.
Just
and
a
then
moment.
share a window or a tab, whichever option it gives you.
Yeah. In the meantime, while I'm doing that, I can just talk about IMS. So we are the biggest development media development organization in Scandinavia, and we work with media in more than 30 countries in 4 continents. Now I can see that it's there, but still in a very little version.
Yeah.
What happens now?
So if you did you hit the present now button on Google Meet?
Yes.
It should be on the lower right.
Yeah, it is. Just give me a second.
Henrik, would you like me to present instead?
Just give me a second.
Okay.
Because I need to be down here. So we are now on. Wait. Maybe you should do that, but then we hope to follow the right way. Wait.
Well, while you do that, let's have a. I want to hear more from Megane. I'm looking at the IndieFrame website, and I like the simplicity of the top section, right? Select a position. Are you a contributor? Are you a photographer or a journalist or a media agency? So those are the 3 main, I guess, customers that you're trying to connect. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So there is. We started out again. I'm gonna refer back to the vision. It started out with the 2 founders working on a documentary movie called Burma VJ. I don't know if you're familiar with it, and basically that's what the idea is about. The story of Burma VJ is local journalists in Myanmar documenting protests, and basically I'm giving a very, very short pitch right now. I'm not necessarily doing any justice to the movie. Cool. But smuggling out the material that they gather, and it ends up being published in European media. I think it was somewhere in Scandinavia actually, and that way that sort of gave an outlet for documenting things that could not, because of the situation locally, being documented there for obvious reasons. And that actually contributed to shed light on what was going on in that country outside, but also had a lot of consequences, good and bad, because of course it shed a lot of light on the work that these journalists were doing. So that also exposed them a little bit, but also shifted some power struggles internally, because all of a sudden people were watching, people knew what was going on. So that is the idea. And you can see in this that there are really two sides, and that is something that I hope you will also see in Mediabridge to a certain extent. So you have the media that could be this outlet for stories or material that for reasons at any in a specific time and place cannot come out, or could take a lot more, have a much bigger scale basically, and a much bigger impact. And then you also have the journalists that work locally, and IndieFrame extends that category to citizen journalists and people, anybody basically with the smartphone can be in the right place in the right time and document something that that was not, you know, expected. Of course, you cannot anticipate news, right? So that's the idea, to have this this platform where that type of material can come out, and it's meant very, very open in that sense.
Maybe I know that you had a PowerPoint presentation, so maybe if I just say I would take the next slide.
Henrik, this is working. I can see it right now.
We can all see your presentation now.
Right now.
Actually, Henrik, it's my presentation, and I just
there we go.
Don't worry, I'll change the So just go ahead, Henrik.
Okay, very good, very good. So if you run through it to slide 5, yes, about IMS. So one going back. Okay, so we are the biggest media development organization in Scandinavia, and we work in these 30 countries across 4 continents. And we are especially working in conflict countries and post-conflict countries where there's a political transition. This is where we support media, and we are funded primarily by the Scandinavian governments, but also getting more fund from different foundations, from international foundations from now on. Okay, Jesper, if you go to the next. So what is Mediabridge about? It's about covering global issues by partnering with the media that are trusted, that we have as partners in the countries where the news is happening. And that means that media in the global south and in the global north can collaborate, and journalists can sign up to this platform, so can media. And if you're a media in the global south, then you can pitch through this platform ideas, research, visual documentation, or stories that are ready for sale. And if you're sitting in the global north, you can go into the page, and then you can find partners to collaborate with because of watching and going through this pitch. You can buy research, or you can buy footage and a whole ready-made story.
Okay, so we started developing Mediabridge more than a year ago, before Corona. So, but we think that with Corona, where no one can travel, so we think that maybe using a platform like Mediabridge, it has become even more relevant to get stories from other parts of the world. So now we're going to line up the problems and the needs that we think is in the media world. If you want to cover foreign stories, then we're going to describe a Mediabridge as a solution, and we're going to give you a sneak peek of what it's going to look like. And then we're going to give you a couple of case stories from some of the media who are already using the beta version of Mediabridge. Okay.
Yeah. So I can just tell a little bit. I have a background before I came to IMS. I was working as a reporter and an editor both at the Danish TV2 and at DR, which is a public service channel. And it's absolutely clear that foreign stuff is not so prioritized, and often it had to be done by us. So we had to fly out, and it's becoming even worse today. We call it parachuting reporting. So that means that we just went down into a country, and then we rode with a taxi, and we had to do the first report even before we reached the hotel. So often the taxi driver was the source for a story. That was one way of doing the first story. And another way was to rely on the different news agencies and the stories they did, very full of fact-checked, very precise, but not really with people. And the local journalists are very often just ignored. And this is what we have an intention of actually doing something about.
So as you all know, the business model of the old media are breaking down, and revenue is disappearing, and audience is disappearing, and this is. But the paradox is that actually the world is more connected than ever. I mean, the clothes, the cars, the food, the technology is produced one part of the world and transported to the other part of the world. So people are actually connected also via social media. So we think that there's a huge opportunity to do stories that are not done today.
And we actually did. We have now done a needs assessment with both European media. We have done it with media in the global south. And I talked with one of the editors-in-chief of Deutsche Welle, saying we get all the things we get now are limousines on footage and people shaking hands, and I'm so tired of it that they need stories about and for real people.
So when we talk to media in the local or smaller media, their problem is like media we work with in Indonesia or Cambodia or Myanmar, for instance. The problem is for them, if they want to publish internationally, they are not very well known. They work in areas with censorship. Some media are afraid to print or broadcast their stories, and it's hard for them to get through to international media. But actually, a lot of their stories have international potential, because when they do a story, often there might be international companies involved, or money or investments from abroad involved. So there is an opportunity, but they don't have the network, they don't have the trust, and at best, they get their stories out locally, and worst case, the stories are never done because no one dares to publish.
I've been working with IMS now for the last 10 years as media advisor, and been traveling around and making capacity building, and I must say that within those 10 years, it's incredible how good the journalists have actually become, what a goldmine of stories there are out there, but that does not reach the international media as it is now. You can also say that the internet is improving day by day, so that means that you can actually, from all these areas, upload both videos, you can upload footage, you can upload documentation, so stories can get out. So we are looking for this methodology on actually getting it out from the global south and getting out to the global north. And actually, what we also have found out is that that is also happening the other way. That there is media. It's also happening south-south. We are now in touch with reporters from Latin America, getting stories from the Middle East, because there's a huge diaspora population there. So it's about connecting. And one of the countries I've been working with lately is Yemen. It's the biggest humanitarian catastrophe that is taking place while we're sitting here. And hardly anything get out from there because the international media cannot go there. But there are more than 100 very qualified journalists that we work with who can produce, and we are vetting them. We know they are trusted, so therefore, why not work with them?
Okay, so I want to give you an example. At Danwatch, we have on a number of occasions been able to go to larger media with these unique stories from hard to reach places that they want to collaborate on and print or get out. So I want to give you an example. This is about the garment industry in Cambodia. And we did a story together with Frontier Myanmar. I hope they might be here listening. I don't know if they are. But we did research on garment factories that were accused of firing people who joined the union. We could document that they were forced to take pregnancy tests, and we could document that the pay was extremely low and that people got fired. And these garment factories were producing clothes and shoes for Nike, Danish bestseller, and Adidas. So we went to Der Spiegel, German company, German media, and said, "Hey, we have this story. It's about Adidas, among others. Would you like to be in on the story?" And in that way, we could. And they said yes. And in that way, we could publish stories the stories were important in Myanmar, they were important in Denmark, and then they were important in Germany. So this is an example of how three media could work together. Another example, which does not involve Danwatch, but just an example of media working together across the globe, is the Brazilian media Reporter Brazil. And Reporter Brazil has done a lot of reporting and documenting that the biggest meat packing company in the world is a Brazilian company called JBS. And they've been linked to deforestation in the Amazon. And they have denied that the cattle is coming from the Amazon. But Reporter Brazil has, via social media research found out that the guy you see in the picture, he's a driver, and his truck is to the right. And these pictures are from what used to be rainforest in the Amazon. And they worked together with the Bureau of Investigative Journalism from the UK and the Guardian in the UK, and because UK is one of the big importers of meat from JBS. So the point is, when media work together across the globe, it works much better than when we do it alone.
So this is these are some of the examples really showing that it's possible, but we also have to look at how the local media is limited at the moment. I mean, the stories they're doing cannot really get out because there's a censorship. We see it so many places, or they cannot afford to do it. So therefore, at best, the stories come out local, and at worst, they do not come out at all. And that is what we are aiming to do something about, and also to actually give the opportunity for journalists, for media in the global south to get their stories out anonymous through Mediabridge. We'll talk more about that later, how it's to be done. But we know that there are so many stories around the world that could be told, and it's a big question why it's not happening. So if you look at this, this is the network. It's based on IMS partners, on partners that have come in, because we have now local coordinators in 4 continents who are then talking with all these local media, and it's really encouraging the stories that they're coming with. So based on this and getting the contact to the international media, we're sure we will build up something. And I will give the word to Megane to show how we actually technically are planning to do this.
Thank you, Henrik and Jesper. So hopefully by now you all got the point. The purpose of Mediabridge is to make it even easier and more accessible for newsrooms to collaborate wherever they are in the world. I just saw in the chat somebody asked about whether these collaborations that Jesper just talked about were a byproduct or a result of Mediabridge. these are not, but I think it's fair to say, and Jesper, please correct me if I'm wrong, that they are the inspiration for Mediabridge, basically, to take it a step further and make it more systematic, because Danwatch has the possibility to engage in those types of collaborations based on the network, the great network that you guys have. But the idea of Mediabridge is that more media can have the same opportunities as Danwatch has, and to extend the possibility to collaborate beyond your own network. And that raises concerns in terms of safety, trust, reliability. And that's going to allow me to address another question that I also saw in the chat in terms of verification of the content. So to address those concerns in terms of safety, trust, reliability, we have designed a couple of things. The first one is the vetting procedure that Henrik mentioned. So it's going to be a requirement for any newsroom or department from a media who wants to sign up on Mediabridge and use the platform to go through a vetting procedure, and only if that goes through will they be granted access to the platform. In addition to that, and on the topic of content verification, we are working on integrating reading of metadata of documentation that would be uploaded to the platform, to sort of give a head start when it comes to verifying and fact checking. And we're also looking into fact checking initiatives, and I think Henrik can speak more into that if there are further questions later. And the last point that relates to trust, reliability, safety, and so on is a code of conduct outlining guidelines, principles, what are the best practice and what are the expectations of good behavior on the platform, respecting each other's works, respecting each other's rights, and that will be enforced as a sort of platform governance. So these are really the key points, so that we have control over who has access to Mediabridge and to the information that is being shared there, because we're aware that it can be very sensitive. And now I can actually show you what we have been working on until now. And that will be what you're going to see is basically.
Here comes the sneak peek, right?
Yes. A sneak peek of what will be released as a closed beta in a couple of weeks, and released only to a limited amount of testers. So if you would be interested in participating in that, we'll give you some more information about that at the end of the presentation. So if we just dive into the product now, we can start with the point of view of I'm just going to try to take some really concrete scenarios to make it a little bit more lifelike. So let's say a German foreign desk editor who's looking for a story to collaborate on, and that would be relevant for his or her German audience. So he or she just goes to Mediabridge to have a look at stories that are being pitched there, sorting through this discovery panel and navigating through the pitches based on location, on keywords, on the type of project that it is, and finds, say, this pitch of an Egyptian story. So it's a collaboration project. It also involves the German government, so that that's two boxes that are checked on the German editors list. This looks interesting to a German editor because it is relevant for, there might be a German angle basically to that story that would make it relevant to his or her audience. And how did this story end up here? The story was pitched by IMS partner Hyhne, that was investigating the consequences of poor management of a joint project between the German and the Egyptian governments for training programs, and poor management of those programs that resulted in severe injuries in children. So the Egyptian journalists have started to work on the project, and they wanted to find a German media to work with them on it, to maybe cover the German side of the story. So they went to Mediabridge to pitch their story and find this, you know, potentially interested German collaborator to work with them, and that might find the story interesting. So this is where we are. And let's say the foreign desk editor is intrigued by this because that might be interesting to look into, and just looks at the details of the story to understand, okay, what is this really about? Because you really have minimum information that allows you to make a quick decision. Okay, could this be interesting for me or not? And then taking it a step further, the editor can see, find information about the hypothesis that the journalists down in Egypt have been working on. What is their minimum and maximum story? Do they have research? Do they have interviews, data, documentation, any existing evidence of the hypothesis that they're working on? And that's basically to give an overview of this is how far we are in the story. There's also a section to read about potential vulnerabilities of the story. So that can be potential backlash after publication, criticism that the story can generate, but also if there are any safety risks for the journalist. I think I saw something in the chat that related to risk assessment. So that's also something that
Megane, we will take that afterwards. You can just mention it, but the questions I think we should take afterwards.
Okay. So that is also something that has been thought into the whole process of basically pitching a story for collaboration. So that's something that overall we put a lot of thought into, based on IMS and Danwatch experience, but also testers' feedback, because it is very important in this stage to deliver the right amount of information for the editors to make an informed decision about whether that would be an interesting project for them to work on, but also protect the work of the partners on ground. So this is really designed to be the starting point of a dialogue between the two newsrooms, dialogue that can happen over this messaging board. So we have identified the need for direct communication early on. So in our example, the German editor might want to ask additional details, information, ask if there's any extra material that they could look into, maybe also ask into the profiles of the journalists that have been working on the story so far, to maybe get an idea of the skills and competences that have been allocated to the story so far, and try to figure out, okay, how with my teams and the skills that we have in-house, how can we maybe contribute with complementing skills or competences, for example. And on the other side, the Egyptian journalists also get to, you know, talk with what could become potentially a collaborating partner, ask into how that partner German newsroom would be able to contribute, what could they bring, like in-kind contribution, time from the journalist, resources, maybe some financing of, I don't know, a field trip, for example. So that's really the place and the way to start defining the terms of a potential collaboration. And when both sides agree on the scope of the project, the conditions, the division of tasks, they can start a project directly on the platform. Now, it's a very common project management headache, and project manager speaking here, to have, you know, several platforms, tools, channels, and things can get lost in the way. So that's why we designed this virtual newsroom, which is a common workspace for all the journalists on the project to communicate together, to exchange material, and to monitor progress. It's rather simple in its form. It allows journalists to message each other, to upload, download documents, and, you know, create tasks, complete tasks, and organize sort of a very basic to-do list. But it's actually the simplicity of this feature that makes it so versatile, if you will, because it can be used. It can be used to coordinate research, to edit and share material, but also to coordinate publication, which sometimes is a very, very important aspect of a collaborative project. And at the same time, it leaves each newsroom completely free of using part of the material that is most relevant to their coverage. So in a nutshell, with Mediabridge, the Egyptian and German newsrooms that I've been talking about, they can join forces to cover more ground and yet publish their own take of the story, and point to one another when publishing either an article or broadcasting a segment, whatever, you know, publication format they choose. Point to each other as collaborating partners, and that has the potential to turn what could have been only one story into several ones with different angles, and then you get to unfold the story in many different angles and levels. And that also means, when it's cross-border collaborations, reaching audiences in different countries, and by doing so creating a lot more impact. So that is the ambition, and I will give the word back to Jesper and Henrik to present the collaborations that this time are Mediabridge collaborations.
Thank you very much, Megane. Great. Yeah. So while Megane is presenting this system that is to become on the platform and be made digital in the near future. Well, we have not been just lying down and waiting for this to come. In the meantime, Jesper and I have been working in what we called handheld to get the collaborations to start working, and it's actually been incredible, the quality of stories and the interest. Of course, also we are in a time, as Jesper mentioned, with Corona. So people are not traveling so much, and therefore they are doing the stories locally, and this is the way they can get out. And Jesper, maybe you could talk about one of the first examples there.
Sure. And when we say handheld collaborations, is basically we go to media we know and say, do you have a story? What do you think about this idea of Mediabridge? Would you like to be part of the beta? And we do that with people who have stories to pitch, and with media who would like to collaborate with them. So this is a story that is going out next week, actually. So this is another sneak peek. So please don't tell anyone about this. But this is the Iranian exile media called Hyhne, and Hyhne is based in Amsterdam, and they have done some really interesting and remarkable investigative work on the organ trade in Iran. And the organ trade in Iran is not entirely illegal, but it's not entirely legal either. And they discovered that there's some social media platforms that are used as a marketplace for the organ trade in Iran, and they have gone to the Danish media called Zetland, and Zetland is like a sister media to the Correspondent in the Netherlands, and the Zetland is very interested in the story, and so Hyhne and Zetland are going to publish this story together on next week on the 25th of September. So if you want to see more about this story, go to Hyhne a week from now.
And another example is the one that Megane was referring to. This is a very well done investigation from Egypt, where a Rish was investigating into this, what happened with funds coming from Germany going to Egypt, Egyptian companies, and it showed child labor, it showed even death from this. And then through Mediabridge, they got in touch with Crowd Reporter in Germany, which is also one of these membership-based new media that are coming up, who were very happy with the story. It's very well researched. And what's happening right now is that Crowd Reporter go to GIZ, which is where the money has come from, and confront, how much have you actually looked into this? Once that part is over, they can finalize the the German part and send it out, and then we have the Arab part going out in Arabic also in the coming weeks. So that's another example of how it's already working, the Mediabridge system. And then Arish is also looking into the effect of COVID-19. Jesper, if you can move to the next slide, please.
Sure, just a minute.
And here they have done stories from 4 countries in the Arab world, actually done stories from 10 countries. Liberation, that they got in touch with through Mediabridge, looked into this and said, wow, this is interesting, because it's about, again, abuse and how power holders are actually using it to take more power, and how they actually the accountability is at a very low level. So this is also coming out in Liberation in France. And I will say, all in all, we have looked at the European/international media, and we will be approaching media that are not what we can call the first wave, like BBC, like the Spiegel, like so much as the second wave, because these huge media, also Guardian, they have their own correspondents, they have their own sources, but there is a whole rainforest of media coming out now where their audience are intellectual people with an interest for foreign news, but it's difficult for these media to actually afford to go out. So that's where we see financially the niche for Mediabridge to go in and provide them with good stories from outside. The next example we have is from Belarus, where the Belarus exile media Belsat got filmmakers to actually document what's happening from the inside, and that went and is right now being prepared by Politiken in Denmark, VG in Norway, and the Guardian, and going on video and going out. So that shows that already now we have examples. It is possible. There is an interest. There is an audience, and once it's up and running, we really hope that it will spread, and we have reason to believe that will happen.
Okay, so finally, please, if you have an interest in being a testing partner, and I think we still have a few spots open, isn't that true, Megane? Then please write to us on these email addresses, and you know, we really believe in this project, and if you think it's interesting, please write to us. Okay, let's take some questions.
This is so many questions.
I think if we could get Pat Berg to jump in,
yeah,
she would nail like 80% of the questions that have been asked.
Well, it's not fair. Henrik and I are friends, so I don't want to put him on the spot. Hi, Henrik.
No, oh, is it that bad?
Hi, I think this is fascinating. And I've learned a lot, and congratulations. I'm just curious, because I know that these are the questions that will be asked of me when I share this with someone else. So let's pretend I'm a journalist or a media organization, and I have a story to pitch. And I think you mentioned sale there, which is what rings true, as you know, for everybody. So is there like a price point comparison that you guys will say this is an average of what people pay for, and then how does that work? Does Mediabridge take some of that? Because, you know, there's the whole money exchange thing. How does that work?
Yeah, in the beginning, we will not be taking any fees, but once Mediabridge is up and running, we have thought about a 10 to 15% fee for handling all this, and money that we are not taking the money out, but that will go in to capacity building, to actually work on getting the local media in better shape for doing this. But it shouldn't be entirely free. But of course, to get people to start using the platform we will have to do it like this. And at the same time, as you probably could see when Megane was showing the platform, there's also a price to be negotiated between the partner in the global south and the partner in the global north for the work they have done, for what is expected extra. And there's also the assignments, because it will come just as much that the media in the north will be asking, we have this thing and we would like to have that further looked into by qualified, not just a fixer or a freelancer, but actually a media they can work together with. And of course, they have to pay for that also.
Got it. Thank you. This helps a lot. Thank you, guys. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
If I could jump in here. So, I'm trying to imagine how this would work out in the, in the industry, right? So there have been a number of marketplace types of platforms that have come up to support both sides, supply and demand of content over the years. Very often they all kind of had one single problem, right? And that one single problem that I saw, at least, and this kind of reminds me of my time when I was working as an editor, commissioning stories and all that. One common problem is that if I'm a commissioning editor, I would choose a stringer that I know in that market, right? I would bypass a marketplace like this because, at the end of the day, it's all about trust, right? The reason why the New York Times would probably not use something like this is because they have stringers that they know of and they trust. So in my mind, at least, and please tell me if I'm wrong here, your biggest competitor is really that trust factor, those relationships that are long in existence. How do you think about that, right?
So you're talking about like a disorganized sector, compared to like a more structured,
that's right,
codified system.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, because I actually believe that marketplaces are one of the best ways to do supply and demand, right? Something like this has been proven successful by Upwork and by Fiverr and
Airbnb, right? They were mentioning that this is a lot like it.
Exactly. So how do you get in the minds of the editor who's commissioning this stuff, the assignment editor who's going to be plucking these stories? How do you get the word out to them? Because I really feel like that's where the problem is. The problem is not the supply, right? The problem is the demand. It is with editors who feel like, hey, I know 5 people in Islamabad who can get me this story. Why do I need to work through you?
Yeah, it's a very good question, and we have been asking that to ourselves also. What can we actually do to overcome that situation? Because you are right, it's all about trust, and you only make one mistake, then you're out. And what we can say is that we will be very careful in our vetting. We as IMS have been working with these partners, over some of them for the last 10 years. And this is what we have really been teaching, and what we have been talking about. How can we provide that trust, and how can we make sure that it's proper done? At the same time, we're living in a time of fake news. We're living in a time where this happens. So we will be setting up all we can do electronically to fact check stories. We will also be using our network. It will very much depend on that network. When we're mentioning Arish, for instance, it's because we have been working with them for 10 years. They have not lost a lawsuit once during that time. That means that we can rely on it. And you could say, if we go back to the, because maybe since you were there, Alan, and I was there also as editors, there is this trust building that actually comes out through reviews. So if we can use that system, rating system, and then say, okay, here's a guy, he has been doing 5 stories, he got 5 stars every time, he might be trustworthy. So if we can, this is also what we're working on. How can get that system to work? And then again,
like
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but that sounds like something that I, as a journalist who seeks to establish credentials, as a freelance journalist, it sounds like a cool credential system. I could put in my LinkedIn profile, for example, vetted by Mediabridge or something.
Exactly.
Or
exactly.
as Pat Bird is saying, the Uber stars.
Yeah,
Why not?
and also going the other way around, because I mean, we also know everyone what happens sometimes when a big media go in and get a fixer and how they treat them. So
yes,
they will of course also be
very
the
good
other way,
point.
just like an Uber.
Very good point. Hey, may I call on Boyoung to ask your question? I love your questions, by the way. I like your question about the vetting procedure. Do you want to go loud and ask?
Sure. Thank you for the amazing introduction, Henrik and Jesper, and again, I was just curious what the vetting procedure would look like what criteria it would include, and how would you go about vetting new members that have no credentials in they obviously Mediabridge is going to start up, and would you include launching members within your network, and how would the people outside of that network be vetted through your procedure?
Thank you for a good and precise question. We will be working very much with local coordinators, because we cannot say that we have the experience from everywhere, but we have the IMS network and then the local coordinators. So we will ask for at least a week to vet the person, and then we have some criteria that we internally discuss, and then we in the end we'll say, okay, you are allowed here or you're not allowed here. It also goes for the media that we're supposed to work with. If they come in, it could be Russian trolls, it could be whatever. We need to go through them, and we need to have a quite precise vetting. And of course, it comes back to this: what is your experience? Who have you worked with before? And in that way, we are asking, and we are primarily working through media that we know.
Hey, Vipal also has a bunch of questions. Why don't you unmute yourself, Vipal, and join in?
Hi, Alan. Hi, Rishad, and hi to the panel as well. It was great to hear you and kind of listen about this. I'm really interested in terms of particularly, I work a lot on the Asia, most of the Pacific markets, and the Pacific markets are quite remote in terms of accessibility, and kind of the marketplaces are small. And so my question was really around the making the marketplace, how do you make it sustainable in terms of once that contact is established and the two parties are actually interested in doing the stories, they could very well go off the platform and kind of start working together. So, how would you actually ensure that they have to go through the payment process and kind of work through the marketplace rather than going offline and kind of connecting with each other outside the platform?
Yeah, we will definitely not be like Airbnb and hide telephone numbers and so on. I think it's part of it. We will be offering quite a few things to be members with the Mediabridge, like special access. We will be looking into insurance. We will be looking into the press cards and special opportunities. That is one thing to keep them in. But if we cannot post fine, if people want to continue on the site, it's their choice. It's their choice. We just have to make it attractive to be within. Megane, you want to?
If I can just add to what you just said, there is a major convenience aspect to using the platform, the way we see it and the way we designed it. That allows that should allow newsrooms to take a collaboration pretty much from one end to another. Not through the whole process, obviously, because there's some fact checking and legal screening aspects that are not included. but the idea is really that we offer not only the matchmaking opportunity, but also this, you know, toolbox, this workspace where the project can be managed in itself. And so this convenient sort of one-stop shop aspect of the product is something that has been thought in to keep users on the platform as much as possible. But of course, as Henrik said, I mean, there are limits to how what we can do, and it is a risk that it will be bypassed. But then it's going to be a test for the quality of the product, basically. If it lives up to the needs and the expectation, and it delivers values to the newsroom to carry out the collaboration in itself, then it should be a lot more convenient and easy and faster to do that on Mediabridge rather than separate platforms.
Okay, well, with that, we're going to wrap this one up. I think the questions are fantastic, and I hope you guys had a feedback that you were looking for as well, and some ideas as to how editors and the marketplace itself would be thinking about this.
Yeah, I really want to come back and look at ways to. I'm curious about how you're getting the word out.
Yeah.
What your channels are. It would be great to see where you're going to seed this idea. You know.
That's right. And how can we help as well in that process?
How can we help? We would love to help.
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you ever need help getting the word out to the community, you know, this is we're here for you.
That's great. Thank you very much. We are actually on the lookout for an Asian coordinator. Not that it will be any of you. You're in a very good you're in good positions, but
I'm not looking at.
We have not been strong on Asia yet. Sorry.
Yeah. Our friend over here, Janice, we're volunteering her.
Well, I know we volunteer. We didn't introduce you earlier, Henrik, Jesper, and Megane, to Janice. She's our social media consultant in Bombay, also a very old friend, and you know, a journalist and a writer and a commissioning editor and podcaster and radio host and all of that. I'm excited about that. You know, not just the coordinator, but it would be interesting to see if you guys emulated some of like a non-traditional journalism outlets, and maybe emulated some of the marketing practices, you know, of Airbnb or Upwork or you know, stuff like that.
That's right.
eBay. I don't know.
Yep.
Be interesting.
Great.
We definitely have a freshly set up Twitter account. So if any of you would be interested in hearing more about the beta testing and maybe become a testing partner, you can also reach us there, and stay tuned on that for of course, you know, updates and articles being published and that kind of stuff.
Very nice. This is really exciting, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.